Welcome to the Agency Bud podcast. On the show, we talk to agency owners and business owners, CEOs, startup founders about their biggest challenges, what makes them tick, and how they got their agencies or businesses to scale and grow. Overcoming challenges, it's what we do. Let's find out about these business owners. You can follow along with every episode at podcast.agencybud.com. We'd love to have you on board. Agency Bud is the platform for delivering increased revenue to businesses and agencies. Find out more at agencybud.com. Let's go and meet our special guest for today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Today we have a young dynamo on the show with us, a gentleman by the name of Pranav Adnani. He is the leader and founder of the Internet agency based out of Mumbai and has some incredible clients on the list already, including people in the fitness niche, including Lenovo. He's worked with Nickelodeon in the past. He's grown his business out to over 20 people already, having only been in business for under 2 years. He has an incredible growth story to share with us. Plus, he's also a partner at a tech company as well. I don't know how he wears so many hats, but welcome to the show, Pranav. Let's have a chat and get started.
Thank you so much, Paul, for that introduction. And I really look forward to speaking to you today. And,
Fantastic.
sharing.
I've been doing some research with you. I'm looking forward to chatting to you as well. Now, how did you get into digital marketing? Reading through your bio, you mentioned that there's so much noise when it comes to digital marketing and digital media. How did you find your own path and your starting point in this arena?
Sure. So I'll tell you about my journey. I started way back in 2016. I was actually working with my family business right before I got into digital advertising. I was working in my family business for a year, and I really didn't find my interest spark in that industry. So I thought I'd probably give it a shot with digital, since I had a degree in management and marketing from Northeastern University. I did my undergraduate degree there. So I always had this inclination towards, digital advertising. And I decided to do a small course back in the summer of 2016. And I applied to several agencies, and I finally got accepted at this agency called Foxy Moron, which is one of the leading digital agencies in India. So I worked there as a content strategist for about 2 years. And, I kind of felt, I wanted to move on to another role at the same agency, but then they told me that it'll take some time. So I thought, might as well give it my own shot and start my own agency, because I always had that dream of doing my own things. So
Fantastic.
I started then. Yeah.
That must have been quite a learning curve to go from, a couple of years working in a content strategy environment with a great, agency with Foxy Moran. I've done some research there as well. They look incredible. So you've done a couple of years there, almost like an apprenticeship into this agency space, and then starting your own business with Internet. How did you find the learning curve going from employee to business owner overnight? How did that happen for you?
Actually, Walt, I get this question a lot of times, that how was the transition from an employee to a business owner? But I genuinely feel that, nothing has changed. I'm still the same person I was back then in 2016. Obviously, I'm more honed and I'm a little more mature when it comes to my skills and my knowledge of the digital space. But my attitude was the same since day one. And even though Foxy Moran was not my company, I always treated it like my own company. And I'd be staying overnight, working till 3 a.m., 4 a.m. back in office, because I still had that attitude that I want to give my best at everything I do.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I always treated Foxy Moran like my own agency as well. And I still had that burning desire with Internet and with Avos.
Fantastic. So when you started Internet and you create a site, you've got a logo, you've got a business card and an email address. How did you then go about getting those first clients? Because from other agency owners that I've spoken to, Pranav, we always talk about those first sort of 3 months and the struggle to get known and getting those first clients. How did you go about those first early steps as an agency owner?
Sure. It wasn't an easy process. I remember for the fact that when I told my colleagues at Foxy Moran, that I'm going to be leaving this agency and starting my own, I got a lot of flack from my managers and my colleagues, and they said that maybe it's too early on, because I was only 23 back then, and you need more experience, you need to be in this industry for longer to start your own thing. And I just felt that if I stay on for a very long time in the corporate space and in the whole job scenario, there'll be no right time that will come my way. It's
Yeah,
either now,
definitely.
it's all. So I just took that leap of faith, and I quit the agency, and for about 2 or 3 months I was out of work. I didn't know whether this was the right decision, but to my luck and with God's grace, I started getting some work my way, and people started recommending me through word of mouth, and that's how I got my first client, which is Talwalkars. So Talwalkars is basically they were the largest chain of health clubs and gyms in India,
Wow.
and I got their mandate for one of their gyms in Mumbai, and it was the premier gym in one of the best locations. So they started. We started with that client, and I started initially freelancing, because I didn't really want to take up the cost of hiring people full time. But then when business started coming my way, I thought I'll probably conduct everything in house.
Yeah,
And
fantastic.
1 year down the line, we won the entire national digital mandate for Talwalkars. So it
Fantastic.
was an entire team effort.
And now that you have that big client, so that's gone from a
Yeah.
single branch of the biggest fitness empire in India to now the national representation for that brand. How is the
Yes.
strategy different when you're designing campaigns, when you're putting together creative, when you're writing copy? How is it different from a single branch to a national campaign?
Sure. So I feel like the gym that I was dealing with in Mumbai, because of their whole luxury aspect, we had a very classy audience that we had to appeal to with our branding and our voice on that brand. But I would say with Talwalkars India, which was the national brand, we had to be a little more massy. We had to understand, there was a lot of social listening that was going on our social media pages, because we really wanted to connect with the audience. And it took us some time to, do that transition, because you come from a particular perspective that, okay, I've been working on a subset of this brand for about a year. So maybe this is what will work for the national community as well.
Yeah.
But I genuinely feel that one of the pros of me starting off with a small brand was that I could experiment. I could do something. I could, and if it didn't work out, I could learn from my mistakes. And then when I came to the national account, I kind of knew what were my weaknesses and my strengths. So I feel that was a good learning experience. And
Yeah, definitely.
the most important part for us was community building. I think that was one of the best reasons. Like, we built a community at that local gym on social media, and that's why the owner of Talwalkars was very happy with the growth of the brand on digital through community building, and that's why he got us on board for the national account as well.
Fantastic. And have you duplicated that for each branch? Like, have you, now that you have the national account, are you focused on building a local community in each location? Is that sort of the recipe that you're putting in place?
Sure. So that was the plan initially. We wanted to kind of segregate each gym and build a community for them. Because ultimately, we wanted to kind of engage our members as much as possible. Like, if I'm a member at Talwalkars, and if my video is being shared, my workout video is being shared on their page, and I'm being tagged, I feel like, wow, Talwalkars just posted about me. So there becomes like a instant recognition with the gym and the brand.
Nice.
So that was the idea, to kind of build a local community within each gym as well.
So each gym has its own page. Each page is then posting the workouts from within that gym, and the people that are around in the local community, their friends are seeing it. They're seeing them working out at the gym. It's an inspiration. That's a great rolling strategy moving forward. So Talwalkars is not the only fitness client you have now. You have others that are in the same space. Is that right?
Yeah. So actually, I didn't really have a direct competitor, so to say. But there were other companies that approached us with respect to the health and wellness space. I really don't believe in working on two accounts which are direct competitors.
I was going to say
time.
that would be almost impossible, because you're fighting for each other's clients.
Yes, and then there's a conflict of interest, and if the client finds out, there will be fingers pointed at us that why is their campaign doing better than ours. So I just try to avoid that. And plus, for my team's creativity as well, I just like to give them a variety of work, so that they also don't feel mundane, when they're delivering campaigns and projects.
No,
So
great
that's my
idea.
theory.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you got that first gem. Now you have the national campaign. Along the way, obviously,
Yeah.
you've employed people. So now you have, as you said, 24 people in the agency already. How do you go about
Right.
attracting the right people to work with Internest? How was your strategy for approaching and recruiting and keeping that team growing?
Sure. So I genuinely believe that, if you treat your employees well, your employees will treat your clients well, and that's how you'll grow as an agency. I think this is a quote by Marriott, himself. So I genuinely like to do a lot of team building activities, and I touch base with my employees once in 15 days just to see how they're doing, about their feedback with respect to our work, with respect to our structure. And there's always room for improvement. All of us, for that matter, either business owners or first level, beginner level employees, we all are a work in progress, and there's always scope for improvement. So I like to listen to my employees, and I like to do so, bring in activities or bring in changes which will be beneficial for us as an agency. But in terms of recruiting, if that's your question, what
Mm.
we basically like to look for new employees via LinkedIn Jobs. I think LinkedIn Jobs was the best thing to happen to LinkedIn, because I've just got such a quality set of leads happening through LinkedIn.
Nice.
I believe you're also connected through LinkedIn, so it's such a
Yeah.
great platform to just get in touch and connect with the professional network out there. So yeah, we've got a lot of quality applications through LinkedIn, and there's also other platforms in India like Naukri.com, and there's obviously word of mouth because our agency has been there for 2 years. And there are a few news agencies also which basically recommend any job openings to prospective employees. So we have these connections to help us recruit. And I personally love word of mouth. If someone who's currently working at my agency or has worked at my agency recommends somebody, so there's a level of trust that comes, because there's a background check somewhere done by that employee.
Yeah.
So I like to go via word of mouth. That's my first preference.
Have you ever had the situation where an employee didn't fit with the Internest culture and you've had to part ways?
Absolutely. I believe that initially, when I was setting out in my first few months, the first 6 months, I did make a couple of hiring decisions which backfired. But I feel that I'm glad that it happened initially
Mm.
with me, because if it did happen today, for that matter, when our agency is probably nearing its peak, I would probably have to face much higher or better or like worse consequences, I would say.
Yeah,
So
sure.
and obviously it came because of youth as well. I personally that time was setting out myself. I didn't really have like much money to fund my own agency because I didn't take any money from my family. It was my savings from my job, so I didn't want to hire a full-time HR manager. I was doing the recruitment myself. And I these mistakes come in every manager's life. I think you got to learn from your mistakes and understand what's the perfect fit for your organization. So screening process is very important.
Absolutely. Do you have that?
Yeah.
Have you got an HR person in place now within the team? Is there somebody that looks after specifically? So you've grown into that. You have what's the breakup of the team right now? How many people are in creative? How many are in sales? Lead generation. What kind of spread of people do you have there now?
Sure. So majority of our team is into design and animation.
Okay.
That's about like 8 of them, 7 to 8 of them, because we are very one of our USPs as an agency is graphic design and animation. So that team is quite extensive. We have like a good hierarchy out there, and then we have a set of content writers that complement these people. Obviously as an agency, our core services are social media, graphic design, web development, SEO, video production. So we have a client servicing team as well separately, because I personally other agencies have this setup where content and client servicing kind of go hand in hand. But I just feel that I like to use the USP of each individual at my agency. And if
Great.
someone is more content or creative, I don't want to kind of push them towards negotiation and management of clients, because that's a different level of expertise and that requires a lot of time investment.
Yeah.
So I like to use the expertise of each of my employees, and that's why I've divided the teams. And we also have like an accounting team, and like a video team, and we have like a web developer as well. So that's the kind of divisions of our departments.
Nice. I think probably for most agency owners and people who are getting started, it's the client attraction and sales roles that are hardest to fill, hardest to keep that engine going. Obviously, that provides the work for everybody else to come on board and keep going. How do you manage your sales team and your sales process? Is it something that you lead yourself, or do you have people within the team that are out there doing that lead generation with you?
So with lead generation, I actually have assigned someone for business development. Whenever, for instance, like there are these phases in the year where we basically go really aggressive with our business development, and there are these phases in the year where we basically are more passive. So I try to not overburden my team when we have a lot of work on our plate, because I genuinely want to grow at a steady pace. I don't want to kind of increase my bandwidth by 2x or 3x overnight, and then lose all my clients altogether, because that's not healthy as an agency. So in terms of our avenues, we do a lot of cold calling. We do a lot of digital PR, and we are a part of a lot of networking groups as well. So that's how we kind of do our sales and revenue generation with business development.
Fantastic. That concept of the networking group, I think, is something that's coming through a lot in terms of getting involved with people like BNI or other connected networking agencies. I think is something really strong. Pranav, can I ask you, when you start working with a client, so let's say somebody's heard about you, they've heard about the great work that you've done, and the phone rings. You pick up the phone, and it's somebody that you've never worked with before, and they want to get more clients, grow their business, and they want you to come in and Internest to run that campaign. What's your strategy with that client? How do you go about finding out what they need and creating their voice? How do you do that as a team?
Sure. So are you talking about a new client? Are you talking about a new brand altogether?
Well, somebody that's maybe an established company. They've been in operation for a little while, but they've never really done any marketing. They haven't really done that kind of lead generation, social activity. How do you go from start to finish, or create a campaign that works with that brand?
Sure. So like for me, Walter, I personally, before I even send a quotation out to a client, I like to show them what a teaser of what we got. Because I feel that a lot of companies go out there, a request for quotations from different agencies and make a decision based on cost. But I like to seal the deal by showing them a glimpse of my work. So what I do is that I send them a questionnaire, which includes several queries about their branding, about their target audience, about their demographics, about what's the kind of positioning that they want to do with respect to their brand on digital. So I get a better idea about what the client is really looking for. And for me, when I am able to present a digital strategy to them, which kind of meets their requirement or hits the chord with them instantly, that's what kind of moves me, I would say. Even if I don't win the account, and if they feel satisfied that wow, this is what we are looking for, and that's something that kind of I preach at my agency. And obviously we have like a fees associated with that digital strategy as well. We don't do it for free, because then they just take the idea sometimes and not acknowledge us for it. But that's the kind of approach I like to take. I like to do a questionnaire with the client, and prepare like a sort of a plan for them based on that.
Nice. Is there ever a situation where the clients and what they are saying that they need is different from what you feel they need? Like they're saying we need to, let's say for example, get more likes on their Facebook page. They need to, whatever. And you're actually saying, no, hang on guys, you need a new website. You need to go back a few steps. Does there ever come that situation where what they say isn't what you feel they need?
Always what? Like I would feel that with every client that I've worked with so far, there has been this scenario at either the beginning point or somewhere down the line, that we've had differences in terms of our strategy, in terms of our thoughts. But I feel that conflict is important today. If my client has told me that they want to achieve more likes on Facebook, more followers on Facebook, I have to keep reminding them that, listen, this is a game where, even too much is nothing. You can keep buying likes, or you can keep investing on media to get followers. Buy is the wrong word. Get followers organically, or via paid promotions is the right word. But I would say that you got to also think of sales. If you're a new brand, you got to think of brand awareness. So ultimately, it's very important to prioritize your objectives. So even if sometimes I'm wrong, my team employees, they correct me and they remind me that, sir, this is what we believe is right. So I think it's important and it's healthy to have such kind of debates for the best interest of the brand.
Nice, fantastic. And then I guess once you've created that understanding between you and the client, we understand their objectives, then we start to put together the creative team and the strategy in terms of how we get that out. And then, obviously we go into rollout from there. Can I ask you, Pranav, from your experience, you've come from an environment where you were all about content. And then obviously now you have a complete content division within your team. How important, first of all, I know the answer to this, but how important is a content strategy for a business, and why is that something that they should be focused on?
Sure. So, what, I personally believe that content is king, and that, phrase has been overused, but I still feel that it is still the summary of, digital advertising. And I feel that if you don't have a story to tell, like content is all about your story. If you don't have a story to tell, you really won't be able to get much interest on your brand's voice. So I feel that content is at the heart of any digital storytelling. And I personally love my content team. I spend a lot of time with them, and I give them a lot of assignments to do because I want to keep honing their skills. So it's always like a fun kind of a synergy that I tend to spark with their team. And I also try to involve them as much as possible with even the client servicing, as well as the graphic design team, as well as the video team, because I feel that ultimately everyone should kind of learn from each other, because I feel that if you're just thinking one dimensional, when you come down to strategizing or working together as a team, there are kind of these backlogs. So I always try to include all the teams together for like a brainstorm, so that the best ideas are coming out there and everyone's learning from each other. So yeah.
Nice. So when we're talking about that I guess synergy or alignment between all of the different modes, we're talking about written content, video content, graphical content across all of the different platforms. How does a company, how does an agency line those things up? So what are some of the mistakes that you see companies making in terms of their synergy across those different mediums of content? You see them making mistakes across platforms. What are some of the ways that they get it wrong, I guess, when they're putting a strategy together?
Sure. I feel like today I would like to give an example of India. There's sudden focus, or a need for emotional marketing. I've seen a lot of brands taking to emotional marketing, and just for the sake of it, because they feel that if a advertisement or a commercial or a post is pertaining to the emotions of someone, be it relevant to your brand or not, they feel that it will do well. So
I see. So something political, something that's in the moment. We're talking COVID, we're talking Black Lives Matter, we're talking, some of these things that have made the big stages. You're feeling like they're chasing that story or chasing that hype, and it's not consistent with what they're doing internally.
Exactly. So there has to be a synergy. For a fact that I know that if a Talwalkar has to speak about COVID, I would try to make it as relevant as possible to the situation, and I would not like to kind of oversell my brand. It shouldn't be a force fit, but I see a lot of brands doing that today. Even though a situation or a moment marketing initiative is not relevant to their own brand, they'd still like to talk about it because everyone's talking about it. Right. So it's become a race.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. And
that is
you
something.
know, it doesn't align with what they're trying to achieve as a company. So it's something that's happening around them, and there's no relevance for them to jump in. So they can not ruin their content strategy, but they can interrupt that message of their own branding by, I guess, trying to be mainstream, where that's not their story. So when we talk about this synergy, something that you mentioned
Yeah,
a few moments ago, I think is really important, is that story is the content comes from the story behind the company, and
yeah.
creating that story to be a consistent start to finish episode, without getting interrupted with all of these different things coming along. I think that's really cool. How do you take that? So I can talk from my own perspective as a company owner. I know my story. I have that background, etc. How
Yeah.
is a company um, going to create enough content around that background story and around their position and their vision and that kind of stuff, so that they can actually produce on a regular basis? We're talking, lots of articles, lots of LinkedIn posts, lots of videos, all of that kind of stuff. Do you tend to find that you give the work back to the businesses themselves, or is that something that you do as an agency for them?
Yeah, I personally feel that I'd love to, obviously take their inputs, and whether they have any direction for content, I always take that into consideration. But just to like, I feel this is my responsibility. If someone's giving me their mandate for
Mm.
advertising, the content is my responsibility. If it fails, and if we took a route that was recommended by the client, I would still take full 100% responsibility for it, because ultimately I am the person who's responsible for your content, being your advertising consultant.
Great.
I try to divide up into three categories, for with respect to my content strategy and my buckets, which is functional. The first category is functional content. So what I mean by functional is to explain the nitty-gritties about your product and your service, the functionality of the
So
product or service.
specific to what you do and how you do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if my company AWOS is into automation, I like to kind of, take that route of explaining what is automation and what, basically is the process of automation because I feel like you got to also educate your customers,
Hmm.
educate your
Hmm.
fans about your service if they're not aware of it. And the second category is personal content,
Okay.
So a lot of people on LinkedIn, talking about their personal life, their personal professional experiences, and what kind of mistakes they made earlier on their career, and what kind of advice they'd like to give to young budding entrepreneurs. So personal content also makes a lot of difference. And the last category I would say is community content.
Okay.
uh, Take the example of COVID today. If, say, for instance, your brand is doing some kind of goodwill or giving back to the community in any kind of way, showing a CSR, showing a corporate social responsibility, you should speak about it on your platform, because that's what the Gen Y, and the millennials are more interested in.
They're
They
looking for.
associate the brand, and they have more trust with the brand when they are doing welfare for society. So our
Mm.
generation is very mature, and you should probably, I like to believe and divide my content into these three buckets.
Okay.
Uh,
And
fun-
how? I guess this is going to be different for every single business, but how how much of those contents should be produced? If we're talking functional, personal, community, in terms of the buckets that you lay out there, which I think is great. Should it? Is there a standard breakdown for that? Should it be like 50% functional, 25% personal, 25, or is there a different spread for each client?
Yeah, I think it will really vary depending on each client and
Mm-hmm.
depending on their industry. There's no rule that you have to maintain like a 33% of functional,
Right.
33% of personal. I wouldn't hold my team up for it. Like, what have you done? Like, I feel this is the 40% functional and 20% community. But I just feel that it should fit the bill, and your audience at the end of the day should connect with you, and your presence should amplify on digital through these activities.
Mm.
These categories are bifurcations made by me. It's not in the Bible, obviously. So do what works for your brand,
Yeah.
but make sure that whole synergy of the content that you're doing works in the favor of your brand.
So I noticed that on the internet side, you guys have got a very prolific other social media channels. So you've got Facebook, you've got Instagram, you've got LinkedIn, you've got Twitter.
Yeah.
Are you your own best client? Do you find that you've got somebody working on internet's branding and the social platform for your own company as well?
Yeah, so I actually like to deal with the branding for internet and the whole social media management myself.
Nice.
It's just that I like to have that personal touch on my brand. And if you go on the page, you'll really see a lot of content, which is pertaining to my image as a person as well. I mean, I'm very filmy. When they say filmy, like I'm a big Bollywood fan. So you'll see a lot of memes on my page which are pertaining to Bollywood,
Nice.
and they will. It talks about agency life, so some things that my employees will be able to relate to, like when your boss walks in at around 6 p.m. and gives you a new assignment, and my employees like to have a good laugh as well when they see these things on social media. So I like to surprise them with the content that I put up there.
Nice.
But yeah, my whole strategy, I really don't want to add, like it's not an avenue for me to kind of just do business development. I just like to kind of put up content that will be relevant to anyone who's following my page.
Fantastic.
And yeah, that's my strategy.
Yeah, terrific. Absolutely. Pranav, can I ask you? You mentioned your tech company there.
Yeah.
Can I ask how do you juggle your time? So obviously, internet is taking the majority of your time because it's the growth and going there. You're a partner in your automation company. How do
That's
you
right.
switch? Yeah, how do you switch hats all the time? Like what's your timing in terms of a day in the life? Do you have to juggle that a little bit?
I do actually. It does get a little taxing sometimes, honestly speaking, but I kind of ensure that I do not procrastinate through the day. So like you'll see me working, I mean, I start my day at 6:30. So I usually go for a small workout down in my building. And then once I'm on my workstation by about 8:30 or 9, there's no looking back. So I also manage my family business, with the administrative side of things.
Wow.
So I kind of get on call with my employees in the morning, ensure that their task lists are in place, just to kind of touch base with them and ensure that they know what they're doing for today. And yeah, I mean, I start my day with Zoom meetings, and then I'm kind of just talking to certain clients, or coordinating with the employees. My time just flows by in this entire process, but I try to ensure that I don't overcome it. Say for instance, if
Sure.
I have a meeting for 11 a.m. And for internet, and if I have another call with a client at AVOS at 12:30, I ensure that I have a little bit of grace time in between, just for myself, so that I can quickly
Juggle
grab
through.
mic and be up and running for the next meeting. It is tough. It does. Sometimes I feel that I'm not giving enough time to one of the brands or one of the businesses, but ultimately I try to make up for it. And even if I have to stay up till like 2 or 4 in the morning, to finish my task for the day, I would do that. I would
Is
not
that something that's
go
regular?
ahead.
Like, I mean, you've got running the administration for the family business. You've got a
Yeah.
partnership with Avos and growing that brand in the automation space. You've got internet,
Yeah.
which is going crazy with growth and with clients and stories. Do you find yourself at 2 a.m. frequently, looking at the bottom of the to-do list, wondering if you're actually going to sleep tonight? Is that something that happens regularly?
It does. It does. Yeah. I mean, especially in the initial months, earlier this year when AWOS was relatively newer, there was a lot of work, because obviously when you're starting off, you have so much to do on your plate. So there were days when I was just looking at myself in the mirror at the middle of the night and asking myself, is this all worth it? Like I'm just 26, and why am I putting so much pressure on myself? I can take that whole easy route of just managing my family business and being content and being satisfied. But I just feel that what is the whole point of that education that my parents have given me? They sent me abroad for 4 years, and I really want to prove myself more than anyone, to myself, that I really was worth it.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So I genuinely feel that you need an ambition, you need a success, a drive for success, or just just to kind of keep you going. You shouldn't get satisfied. Don't get complacent.
No, of
That's what a
course.
lot of entrepreneurs do. They start a company, and once they've made it, they get complacent. They don't want to grow, but you got to keep challenging yourself. So yeah.
I love it. Fantastic. And do you see people within internet now that have their own ambitions and their own desires to do something there? Are you looking at, well, let me start with this way. Are you worried about losing them? Are you worried about that, good person that you've groomed setting up their own business, or are you looking at expanding with them in terms of giving them their own branch? And how are you handling that sort of growth side of things?
So I actually, initially I had this learning experience as well when I started off, because I was 23 that time when I was hiring. I felt that, if I treat someone really well, and if I, ensure that they're getting what they want, they will stick around with me, and there's no need for them to leave. But I know for a fact that everyone has their personal ambitions and goals, and you got to come to terms with it. It is but natural that, if they have joined your agency, they are here to learn, they are here for a personal ambition, and that is fair enough. Today, for that matter, I also had a personal ambition when I joined Foxy Monon,
Yeah,
that I want to
absolutely.
start my own agency. So that'll be very hypocritical of me to, expect that from someone else. So I always like to still today, for that matter, talk to my employees and understand their personal goals, and see how it can be a win-win situation for both of us.
Yeah.
So if they tell me that, I'm looking at my time at this agency for the next 1.5 to 2 years, and this is what I want to, achieve, this is what I want to learn, I ensure that they get that and more at my agency. And when they leave, they leave on a good note, because I personally feel that my employees are my best spokespersons. So a lot of people who've left my agency have also recommended my agency to
Fantastic.
their friends.
Lovely.
And I've in fact, hired their friends and their family
Oh,
as well.
that's a great way to go. And of course, they can refer business back when they're getting started, and as they're expanding their own skill set. So, speaking of which, do you you mentioned the breakdown of your team before? So the people who are doing the creative, the digital, the animation, etc. Do you outsource anything these days, Pranav, or is everything in house?
Sure. So I used to outsource earlier, but what happened was that, you have a lack of quality control when you're working with freelancers. Freelancers are handling a dozen of projects at a time, and they are just happy with their paycheck. But ultimately, it's your agency that will be accountable to the client. If things fall apart. So I don't really take the freelancer route anymore. I personally, if I'm offering a service in-house, I will tell you upfront. If I'm not, I will recommend you to someone else, and I'll also ensure that I get my commission out of it.
Yeah, sure.
Because
no, it's important.
So, it is, yeah. So I mean, if I'm not able to take up something, if it's above my bandwidth, or if I'm not offering that service, I just put my hands up. For me, I don't want to spoil the name of my agency. I feel once a recognition or a respect for a company is lost, it's very hard to gain that again. So credibility is what's important for me.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, cool. And who was the first people that you hired? Did you hire creative? Did you hire sales? What was your first team members that you were looking for?
Yeah, I mean, when I started off, I wanted to kind of just get everyone possible and take a backseat. I wanted to get creative. I wanted to get like content, client servicing. But I actually thought that since I'm a content person and I can fill for those shoes, initially especially, I thought that a designer is most important for me. Nice. I could do client servicing. I could handle even the accounts for that matter, but I needed someone specifically for design. So I got a resource which was quite senior, like someone who's working in the industry for about 8 years. Wow. Because that's how I managed to win big mandates, like the likes of Talwalkars, the likes of Provoke, which is a fashion brand, MK Global, Jewel Group, real estate companies, So I just felt that my design should, be top level, like best possible, and I'll take care of the rest of the things. So that worked in our favor, and we still get praise for our design work.
Nice. Yeah. I'm sorry to bring this up, but because of your age, because you're so young, and you've brought on senior people into that design role, how has have you felt that that's had any impact or any effect either with teams or with clients? Have you ever had people say, you can't handle our account, you're 24, or, have you had any kind of backlash from that?
Yeah, actually, so I remember that, when I was initially approaching prospective clients, and, I would present a plan to them. And after the meeting, they'd ask me, so what's your age? And I tell them 23 or 24. And they would just make a face and they'd be like, wow, you're so young. Like, why are you doing this? You should be, doing a corporate job. But I mean, I took it as a challenge and I took it as a compliment in a way, because not many people my age are doing what I do.
Yeah.
And I feel, if I have made this decision, I am going to stand by it. And my employee who was the first designer who had that 8 years of experience, he initially thought that I'm about 27 or 28. So I managed to I managed to convince him as well. So I just feel that, there's also a little bit of friction that happens, because when you're working with someone who's elder to you, they somewhere feel that they are maybe a little smarter than you as well. So I was always, like, from day one, open to opinions and suggestions from everyone who's younger than me, even a 19-year-old intern as well as a 33-year-old designer. So I think your open-mindedness makes a big difference, to ideas, to your work, and over and above your age, I would say. Yeah.
Fantastic. I can see so much wisdom in the way that you work, in the way that you come across, and I have no doubt that your ability to let other people know that you can handle that job, it comes across to me. So I'm sure that that's not much of a handicap for you anymore moving forward. Pranav, can I ask you? And this is a challenge that I've put to a few agency owners over the last weeks. If we took you out of your current environment, we took you out of Internest, we put you into a foreign city, and we said, you've got, let's say, 90 days to create a successful digital agency from nothing. What would be the first maybe 3 or 4 things that you would do in that environment to get started again and to grow quickly?
I think I would initially like to join a few networking groups, both physically as well as, like, online for that matter. And I just feel that it's very important to have a strong network. Today at my agency, like, the majority of the clients that I've got is through my personal network.
Fantastic.
Initially, today obviously we get calls from the front, and people pick up the phone and call Internest for handing over their mandate. But initially you got to do the hard work. So I feel like my high school friends, my college friends, they found out about my agency and they started driving work towards me, because they had this level of trust that we know this person, so he'll do a good job, he's a nice guy.
Yep.
So that kind of trust is important, over and above having a personal network. So I would start off with that particular perspective. And I would like to learn the local language and ensure that I'm savvy with that, so that I can also kind of build a personal rapport with my employees, with my clients. And that would be my initial kind of process.
Okay, so let's say we're a couple of weeks now. You've got a good understanding of the local business. You've got started to join a few of those networking groups, had a few coffee meetings with some business owners, etc. What's next after that? You've got that kind of starting foundation. Okay, how do we get that to get some momentum?
Sure. So I'd also actually like to kind of analyze how people are kind of communicating and dealing with business development out there, because I know for a fact that every community is different in its own way. So pricing is something that I'd like to kind of understand, because in India, people are very price sensitive. So if your services are cheap, and if your quality of work is average, you'd still win the mandate over someone who is slightly on the pricier side, but is giving you amazing quality of work.
Wow.
So I would like to kind of understand those factors as well, about price sensitivity and about client behavior. So I would kind of take that route. And also I would like to understand about what kind of motivates people, like, for that matter, I know that incentives are very important for sustaining employees in your own organization. So while I've spoken about business development so far, I would also like to kind of understand what motivates the local community that I'm working with. Is it the money? Is it the workload? Like, do they like to work on Monday to Friday and not be troubled on the weekend? Because that's the culture in the US. But in India, you're working Monday to Saturday, and sometimes on Sundays as well. So just these kind of factors, what incentivizes people, and what's the attitude of the locals out there with respect to their profession.
I love it. Pranav, I'm so conscious of your time and so grateful for the chance to speak to you. I don't necessarily like asking this question, but I think it's important to do so. How has the
Yeah.
COVID pandemic affected Internest and your clients specifically? What's been the impact of that?
Sure. Initially, there was a lot of uncertainty.
Mm.
I'll be honest with you, Walt. I didn't know that which direction would my agency take with this whole situation. But I'm glad that this process has been a lot of self-reflection for me and my agency for that matter. When I say self-reflection, I'm pointing out to the whole aspect of I had a few clients, which I had one initially when I set out with this agency. And, because I was kind of a relatively new agency, our retainer was low. And, we kind of would servicing those clients because we really wanted to respect them and maintain an equation with them
Yeah.
since they believed in us when we were nothing. But I feel those kind of clients have kind of dropped out because of the financial situation currently due to the situation. And it's a survival of the best. So you've kind of seen brands who were kind of futuristic, like
Right.
in the health and wellness space, that have survived in this entire phase. So we've been lucky enough to tie up with a lot of these brands. Like we have a company called Ayurveda, which is the number one, most trusted healthcare brand in India as of 2019. So they have kind of just grown 4x, over this entire
Wow.
COVID
Yeah.
situation
Yeah.
because everyone's turning to these kind of solutions of health and wellness to boost their immunity during this downtime to avoid the virus. So I believe that if you have an attitude of growing along with the client, you're gonna reach heights. So like if the client tells me that, listen, I'm expanding my academy, are you going to be able to handle this new mandate, because we're going to be requiring XYZ ton of new services? And that's when agencies like us step up our game and tell them, okay, listen, we are going to provide you full support to ensure you get to your goal. And that's how you grow as well. So
Fantastic.
I that's obviously speaking of one client, but I would say that a lot of other brands also have taken a hit, and their media spends and their advertising spends have kind of dropped,
Yeah.
uh, quite
So
substantially.
it's very industry dependent, and again, I'm feeling the same thing.
Yeah,
So there are certain industries that are
yeah,
excelling in this
yeah,
particular time frame, and of course, there are other industries like retail that are really suffering as a
yeah,
result. So, can I ask you if, and this is a fun question in the same
yeah.
pandemic kind of world,
Sure.
if we were able to go back to October, November 2019, and
Yeah,
you could have the foresight to know that this was coming, what
yeah.
would you do differently within Internet to prepare so that you could grow forward when it actually hit?
Sure. I think I would like to kind of control my hiring process
Mm-hmm.
because at the moment maybe we have a few employees that obviously are kind of over and above the level of mandates that we are handling.
Sure.
But I still have made a point that even though if we are making a 10% less or a 15% less as an agency currently, I'm not going to fire anyone during this time, because I just feel that that's the hallmark of a good manager. Like if the employees have supported you through thick and thin, this is your time to give back to them and kind of also tell them that you're backing them up.
Yeah.
So maybe I would kind of control my growth process as an agency and kind of just hire employees that were a necessity.
Mm.
But having said that, I still have great love, respect, regard for everyone who's working for my agency currently, and with all due respect to each one of them who are currently servicing us. But yeah, that's just one tip I would give to any entrepreneur back in October, that just control with a little more caution, and just hire with a little more caution. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe as a secondary, maybe try and angle towards some of those health related or growth growth clients that are about to go live. Pranav,
True.
again, I'm so conscious and so grateful for the time. What sort of skills are you adding to your portfolio now as you're looking forward with Internet, with Avos as well? what education, what knowledge are you putting in? What are the things that you're teaching yourself or learning or skilling up so that you can grow into the future? What are your, I guess, educational knowledge goals at the moment?
Sure. So I actually like to read a lot. I'm also like I found a new spark interest in tech. So that's why, like, I've kind of also started with AWOTS with last year. So data analytics is something I like to really, focus upon, and I read a lot about it. And I also I personally sit up with my employees sometimes and would just like to learn skills from them as well. Like, I'd sit with my SEO person, and I'd understand how he's basically doing on-page, off-page SEO. Sit with the media expert, understand how Google AdWords work.
Nice.
My web developer as well, learn different kind of programs from him, like Python and all these other softwares and stuff that they use. So I always feel that I want to learn a little bit of everything, because I'm a jack of all trades and also a master of some.
Okay, good. Nice. Very cool.
So, yeah, because today, as a manager, like, if I'm going back to my employee and telling them that, listen, this is where I felt that you were lagging, and this is where I feel there's a scope of improvement. I should know their work somewhere,
sure.
in order to be in those shoes to kind of give advice to them. Otherwise, they'd be like, he doesn't know anything about my job. Why is he telling me?
Yeah, you need that credibility. You need that base level of knowledge. What's you said you're a big reader. Me too. What are some of the books? Can you think of a particular book or audio or podcast or something that's made a big impact for you?
Sure. So I would say that there's this book of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Stephen Covey.
That's one of my favorites. Yes, absolutely. And also the 12 Rules of Management by Benjamin Franklin. I think that's made a big impact on my life.
Nice.
And Benjamin Franklin, I think he's the founding father of American business. So he's always preached that you should always have 3 qualities which make a man, which is meditation and reading and discourse, like how we are discoursing today.
Nice.
I think it's very important to share your knowledge with other people and help others in the community grow. Because if you just read and you're selfish and you're just absorbing all the information and being secretive about it, you're really not going to grow as a person. And discourse is what completes a man.
Fantastic. Nice. I haven't actually read the Benjamin Franklin one, but I'll be making a point to get it from Amazon as we finish the call. Pranav, thank you so much. I would love for our listeners, our audience, to be able to follow along with you. And I know that you, as I mentioned before, you're prolific with some amazing Bollywood memes and some great stories coming through your social media. But what's the best way that people can follow along with Internest and with AWOS and with yourself personally? How can people keep following you and what you're doing online?
Sure. So you can actually check us out on Instagram and on Facebook, or for that matter, LinkedIn as well for Internest. We are known by our handle, which is @InternestWorld. Our website also is called internestworld.com. So you can check us out there. And if at all you want to connect with AWOS, we are known by the handle AWOS Technologies across all our social media platforms. So if at all you have a requirement with respect to digital advertising or with automation, for that matter, you can connect with me directly as well on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is @Pranav Adnani, and hit me up if you want to just have a nice chat, or you need any advice, or you want to kind of connect with my services.
Fantastic. And we'll make sure that those links are in the show notes as well, Pranav. Pranav, Adnani, thank you so much for the chance to come on and bounce back and forth with you for an hour. The value for me has been huge. I can completely see the drive and determination that has grown Internest so quickly to where it is. I wish you nothing but success moving forward in the future. And again, I'm so grateful for your time, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Walt, and all the best to Agency Bud, which is your podcast. I've been seeing that you've been in amazing, podcast sessions with such renowned speakers and guests. So please continue doing what you're doing, Walt, and I hope to connect with you soon. And wishing you all the best.
Thanks again, mate. Cheers.